Hello to all of you, dear friends. Before I say even a single word about today's topic, I want to ask you to picture something in your mind. Imagine there's a massive dam holding back billions of liters of water. This water can light up a city, irrigate farmlands, and bring life. Now imagine that this dam develops a tiny little hole. On the surface, it seems like nothing, just a few drops per second. But that tiny hole gradually eats away at the dam's foundation, and one night while everyone is asleep, the dam breaks and all that immense potential turns into a devastating flood that sweeps everything away. Friends, today I want to talk about that tiny hole in your life. A habit that 70 to 80% of people are caught up in, and based on experience, this number even reaches 95%. A habit that you might think is just a moment of simple pleasure. But today I'm going to prove to you how this act is gradually drowning your mental, physical, and future emotional relationship potential. I'm here today to tell you the dark truth behind this behavior. A truth that many doctors or so-called modern specialists might not tell you and might even encourage you instead. But at the end of this video, I'll reveal a rescue formula that shows you how your brain tricks you into staying stuck in this cycle. If you want to know why, despite doing this, you feel more lethargic, irritable, and lonely every day, then this video is made exactly for you. Stay with me until the very last second, because the point I'll share at the end might be the only thing that saves you from a major crisis on your wedding night. Let's be honest. We live in an era where we're bombarded with stimuli from every direction. All it takes is to unlock your phone, scroll through Instagram, or watch a simple movie. Everywhere you look, there are signs targeting your instincts. The story begins when we start looking for a way to escape. When we're under academic pressure, when loneliness weighs on us, and when we don't have a partner, our mind looks for the cheapest and fastest way to find peace. And what could be easier than artificially releasing your instincts in private? The problem is, we think this is a personal issue and that we're not hurting anyone. But the truth is, you're gambling with your brain's reward system. It's like someone who's thirsty and instead of drinking water, drinks salty seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get, and your body becomes more depleted. There have been people who, in the prime of their youth, couldn't walk like an 80-year-old man because they buried their vital energy in school bathrooms or dark rooms. Today, I don't want to lecture you. I want to talk to you as a friend and as a specialist who has witnessed the destruction of thousands of lives. I really want to explain to you exactly why that overwhelming feeling of deep regret after doing this is actually a natural signal from your brain, essentially screaming at you that you are making a massive mistake. But even so, why is it that you just keep doing it? Why don't you break this cycle? In the next sections, we'll break down this issue layer by layer together. Before I get into the technical discussion of physical harm, I want to create a safe space here. This is a topic that people usually don't talk about because everyone feels embarrassed. But remember, silence means the pain continues. I want you to pause the video for a moment right now and, in the comments, just write with one word or an emoji whether you have ever felt that this habit has negatively affected your focus or self-confidence. Or if you think the media and social networks have played a role in starting you down this path, let me know in the comments. Why am I asking you to do this? Because when people see that hundreds of others are struggling with the same challenge, that heavy burden of guilt and loneliness is lifted from their shoulders. We're here to get better together. Liking this video also helps get this message to those young people who are in complete despair right now and think there's no way back for them. With your like, YouTube will show this video to more people, and maybe with just one simple click you could save someone's life. By the way, I read all the comments. If you have any specific questions that you'd like me to address with treatment solutions in a future video, be sure to ask, because next I'm going to talk about something that might really shock a lot of people. Physical changes in body tissue, so definitely share your thoughts and let's move on to the next section. Physical injuries when the body starts to scream. A lot of people ask, isn't this a natural act? The answer is, eating is natural too, but what if you eat 20 times a day? That's not nutrition anymore, that's death. Let's look at the 5 main physical damages that result from repeating this behavior too much, which we call chronic self-stimulation. The first damage is to the tissue and peripheral nerves. When you artificially stimulate sensitive areas of the body with excessive pressure or friction, you're actually damaging the tiniest blood vessels and nerve endings. This causes the skin in that area to lose its sensitivity. What does that lead to? When you enter a real emotional relationship in the future, your body no longer responds to natural stimuli because it has become accustomed to that intense shock and pressure. But it causes a dysfunction in the response system. We have two types of patients. The first group are those who have become overly sensitive, meaning that with the slightest touch or even a simple thought, they lose control. The second group are those who have become completely numb, meaning they no longer derive any pleasure from real relationships. Both of these conditions stem from this habit, which has thrown your nervous system out of calibration. But then there's chronic fatigue and physical exhaustion. You may have heard people say that this doesn't drain your energy, but that's a big lie. The production of vital resources in the bodies of both men and women requires a large amount of protein, vitamins, and minerals. When you constantly and excessively deplete these resources, your body doesn't get a chance to recover. That's why after doing this, you feel extremely sleepy, get dark circles under your eyes, experience hair loss, and your knees may tremble. You're withdrawing from your health bank's reserves without making any deposits. But then there are infections and microscopic inflammations. Many patients visit doctors with vague pelvic pain or urinary burning sensations. Upon closer examination, it has been clearly observed that repeated stimulation has caused tiny microscopic wounds, which have opened up a path for harmful bacteria. But then there's the drop in testosterone and hormonal balance. Although doing it once may not have an immediate effect on hormones, obsessing over it puts the body in a constant state of stress. The hormone cortisol, which is the stress hormone, rises while the building and energizing hormones decrease. Friends, this was just a small part of the disaster. What I want to tell you in the next section, the psychological destruction and damage to the central nervous system, is 10 times more dangerous because the body can be treated with medication, but how are we supposed to treat a mind that has been conditioned? A little later, I'll explain how this can make it so you can't even be a normal person at work or school. The psychology of obsession, a prison inside your own mind. Let me talk to you about your biggest enemy, dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone of pleasure and reward in the brain. When you do something good, like succeed in an exam, your brain releases a little dopamine to encourage you. But when you watch pornography and masturbate at the same time, you're basically setting off a dopamine bomb in your brain. The human brain isn't designed for this level of artificial pleasure, and the cycle of addiction, just like with alcohol and drugs, works the same way. It's exactly like an alcoholic who starts with a single shot, but after a while needs a whole bottle to feel the same effect. You end up falling into this trap too. At first, you might start with just once a week, but after a while, your brain becomes resistant. Now you need more extreme images, longer periods of time, and more frequent sessions. There have been patients who did this 20 times a day, even when they didn't feel anything. They still kept going. But why? Because the brain has become conditioned. This is no longer pleasure, it's a psychological compulsion, or what we call obsessive-compulsive disorder. But then comes the destruction of focus and memory. Have you noticed that lately when you read a book you get tired after just 2 pages? Or when someone is talking to you, your mind drifts somewhere else. This is because your brain has learned to only respond to ultra-fast and ultra-intense stimuli. Ordinary activities in life like studying or working become boring for your brain because they release little dopamine. You're losing the ability to be happy with the little things. But the feeling of guilt and the vicious cycle, that's the worst part. You do this to calm yourself down, but immediately afterward, feelings of self-loathing, shame, and embarrassment hit you. This bad feeling causes stress, and what does your brain suggest again to escape the stress? Try it again to calm down, and this way you fall into a vicious circle that gets deeper every day. Stay tuned, because in the next section I want to tell you how this behavior acts exactly like a virus attacking your romantic relationships and marriage, and how it could even deprive you of having a warm family in the future. But now, let's move on to the part about the destruction of relationships and disaster in married life. A lot of young people say, "I'm single now, I'll stop doing this once I get married." As someone who has witnessed the collapse of marriages for years, I can tell you this is the biggest lie you tell yourself. Someone who has trained their mind with virtual images and unnatural stimulation will experience a reality shock when they face their spouse on their wedding night. Your spouse is a real human being, not a porn actor with computer edits. The first issue is intimacy disorder. In your private moments, you've gotten used to only thinking about yourself and reaching the end quickly. But marital intimacy is a two-way street of feelings, emotions, and time. Someone who has become addicted to this behavior doesn't have the patience or tolerance for an emotional relationship. They're only after release, and this makes the other person feel like just a tool, not a life partner. When you constantly look at unrealistic content, you unconsciously compare your spouse to it. No human being can compete with exaggerated fantasies. The result is that you don't enjoy your spouse. Emotional coldness takes over the whole household, and many divorces happen because men or women, after years of excessive self-stimulation, experience severe stress during real intimacy and their bodies completely shut down. This shame leaves a wound on the soul that might remain for years. Dear friends, up to this point, we've seen how a tiny hole in the surface of our lives can destroy our entire structure. We've realized that this act isn't just a simple release, but rather an attack on our nervous and hormonal systems. It makes your brain addicted to artificial dopamine and robs you of the real pleasures of life. It severely reduces your self-confidence in social settings and your ability in emotional relationships. Do you remember I said at the beginning that there was a secret? That secret is that your body is not your enemy. This desire and instinct is a sacred energy placed within you for creating, for loving, and for achieving success. When you waste this energy, it's like pouring the fuel of a fighter jet into a ditch. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now and hit the bell so you'll be notified as soon as that life-saving video is released. Don't forget to send this video to your best friend too. Maybe they're suffering in silence and waiting for a sign. Also, let me know in the comments if you're ready for change so your positive energy can inspire others too. Until the next video that's going to change your life path, may God protect you.